If you're the kind of person who is on the edge of your faith right now, wondering whether or not you believe, before you consider giving up faith in God or in the possibility of there being any good at all, before you consider believing in anything other than God, before you believe something else, and before you maybe assume that God maybe once created the world and set it spinning and then walked away from it all, listen to this broadcast today on Soul 02. And welcome to Soul 02. This is the podcast that is putting the oxygen back into the Christian life, one soul at a time. So glad to be with you today. And today we're talking about the idea of belief. There are so many beliefs right now, and there always have been since humans, populated the earth. But more than ever, because of our ability to communicate and send out the message quicker, there are so many beliefs. And I want to talk to you today simply about the idea that everyone has faith. That's what I titled this today. Everyone has faith, even if they don't realize it, even if they don't know they have faith. Everyone lives by a measure of faith. And so much of what we do, even unconsciously, we do by faith. Even if you could be the world's best atheist and you still live by faith in some way. And we'll talk about that in a second. But there was a church father by the name of Cyril, and he made this point. He said, it is not only amongst us, talking about people who believe and have faith, who bear the name of Christ, that faith is made so great a thing, but everything which is done in the world, even by men who are unconnected with the church, is done by faith. Then he talks about agriculture. He says, agriculture is founded on faith, for no one who did not believe that he should gather in the increase of the fruits of the earth would undertake the labor of husbandry. Then he talks about sailors, or he called them mariners, right? Mariners are guided by faith when they entrust their fate to a single plank. And this is the point I'm making today, that maybe you're struggling with faith. Maybe you've thought about giving up faith and just becoming a humanist altogether and say, I don't believe in anything. I'm going to become Nietzsche's Übermensch, the perfect man who creates his own fate and just stands for himself and just does his own thing and takes the risks and puts his life this close to the edge of death and just saves it and becomes his own person and creates his own world. That could be an alternative, but there's no life in it. There's no hope in it, because without God in our schema, in our way of thinking, there is no hope. What hope is there? And so I'd like to say this today, that without realizing it, we exercise the principle of faith every day. And Church Father Cyril just said it, but think about it. Even if your faith has 1,000 holes in it or hangs on by a thread, you have a measure of faith. Here's for instance. We believe that people have minds. But have you ever seen my mind? And I've never seen your mind, right? If I knew you, I've never seen your mind. I've never seen my wife's mind. Yet we believe in the idea of the mind. And in a sense, we have to accept by faith that someone has a mind, even though we've never really seen it. You can see the physical brain, you can see the structure of someone's skull, but you've never seen their mind, their process of thinking, the way they think and the way they cogitate, so to speak. How about this one? No one can see the imaginary zone in baseball called the batter's box, which of course is that, or they call it the strike zone, right? Which is that imaginary box that kind of, where the pitcher tries to put the ball, right? Or no one has ever seen an atom, right? Or atomic particles. Yet we've always believed, since science was able to believe on these things, that atoms exist even though you couldn't see them. And maybe today there's a fancy way I haven't heard of. I wouldn't be surprised. But here's the point, that by faith we believe these things. We believe in the mind, in the batter's box. We believe in atoms and so many other things. Every time you deposit your money into the bank, you believe that it's okay there. You believe that by faith you can cash checks against what you put in the bank. And this is what leads us to the next the next idea that I want to share, that there's something called numinal, a numinal idea, right? Something that is not knowable by the five senses, which means that all of us have in us this capacity to believe in more than we know, in more than science can quantify. We can't put it in the test tube, we can't put it below a microscope, but yet we know it's there. We know something is real. And how many people have had dreams that came true, or had some kind of premonition of something that was going to happen? That's because in us is the spark of the divine, of God. And sometimes that comes out as a gifting, as a prophetic gifting. And we all have this. We all have the ability to believe beyond our five senses. And this is where Immanuel Kant, he called it the Numenon, which is the plural of nominal, right? Or noumena. And in his philosophy, he believed that we can speculate and reason, but we can only know certain things by calling them phenomena. That's a phenomenon. We can't explain that scientifically. It's beyond us. It's something we don't know. But he also said this, that man is altogether excluded from this numinal because of practical reason. His reason can't go to that spiritual place beyond the five senses. However, because he's a moral agent, because he has beliefs in right and wrong, there's something in him that is able to grasp it, because he has freedom to think about it and freedom to sense that there is something beyond this. And that's where morality comes from. It's not just some cold ethic that people invent. It's something God put in us. And that's a numinal idea. And I want to challenge you with that today. And so think about it this way, that faith is a prequel to all knowledge. Faith is a prequel to all knowledge. And it is so important to understand that as we look at what God said, right, in his word, that in Proverbs 3:5 to be exact, I'll give that to you in a second here, but first let me say this, and then I'll give you the scripture, and then we'll talk about it. But just because faith is not perfect does not mean that it's not worth engaging. Faith is messy. Faith is disappointing. Sometimes faith is outright makes you angry because you believed and then you were let down, or you felt like you were abandoned by God. Just because the God I have faith in might have, in my perception, let me down, it doesn't mean that faith is a bad thing. It just means that I can't penetrate that numinal because I'm trying to think about it left-brained. Just because the church maybe has let me down or let you down, or just because I've seen hypocritical Christians or ministers who had affairs or did these awful things and just were total liars, it doesn't mean that I can't have a relationship with God. God still loves me. So I want to leave you with the scripture to talk about the idea that faith is the prequel to all knowledge. And this is found in Proverbs 3:5 rather. He says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not rely on your own insight. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths." There's something about releasing your heart to God in trust that allows you to have peace and not to be the God of your own fate. Man, the thought of that is so exhausting, to think that everything is on you without any God, without any reality of God. But it doesn't have to be that way. So I want to challenge you that if you're thinking of throwing away your faith, don't. Give God a chance. Find people who know God. Find a good church that teaches about God, that loves God, and engage them. And you'll see what happens in your life, because you were made to go beyond the scientific. You were made for the numinal in the end. You were made to be a person who's motivated by faith. If you find this broadcast a benefit and a blessing to you, please subscribe to our channel and check out our website, soul02.com, and our YouTube channel. It'd be great to just hear from you. Okay, so until next time, thanks so much. God bless.